gooed me.
What if it's not?
There's not many people could say that.
No.
What if
What
it's
would
not
you-
a mess?
Then where did you get this masterpiece? Dame Judi Dench.
Correct.
It began like any other promotional appearance. A poised, articulate actress sitting under bright studio lights, answering familiar questions with polished ease, until suddenly, it didn't. On the morning of September 27th, Caitriona Balfe, the Irish actress celebrated for her portrayal of Claire Fraser in the globally beloved Outlander series, appeared live on RTE1 to promote her new independent film. The atmosphere was casual, almost tender, as she laughed with the host about Ireland, acting, and creative freedom. But then, in an unexpected turn that would soon set social media ablaze, the host leaned forward and asked what seemed an innocent question. "Caitriona, have you been in contact with Sam Heughan since Outlander wrapped?" For 7 seconds, silence fell over the studio. No one moved. Even the cameras, it seemed, hesitated. Caitriona looked down, inhaled deeply, and when she looked up again, her expression was different, softer, sadder, as though something long buried had stirred inside her. Then, almost to herself, she whispered, "I don't think I should keep quiet anymore." What followed were not the words of a rehearsed celebrity, but the hesitant, emotional confession of a woman unraveling a decade of secrecy, loyalty, and unspoken emotion. "Sam and I," she said with a trembling smile, "had an understanding, an unspoken agreement during Outlander, that we would never let people know what really happened between us off-screen." The host froze, unsure whether to press further. The crew exchanged nervous glances. Caitriona continued, her tone shifting between nostalgia and resignation. "At the start of season 2, the producers made us sign what they called a media conduct clause. It meant that if there was anything between us, personally, emotionally, it had to stay private. They said it was for the sake of the fans, to protect the illusion of Jamie and Claire. But in truth, it became something else. It became a cage." Within hours, RTE's official website uploaded the 4-minute clip titled "Caitriona reveals what she never said about Sam Heughan." It can't be hidden anymore. What had begun as a quiet Irish morning transformed into an international storm. Fan forums exploded with speculation. Timelines flooded with slow-motion analyses of Caitriona's gestures, her pauses, her downcast eyes. Every blink was dissected. Every shift in her tone became a clue. The world began to see not just the elegant actress, but a woman carrying the weight of something long concealed. And soon, the contours of that hidden story began to emerge. Not in what she said, but in what she carefully avoided saying. According to sources close to the Outlander set, the so-called 10-year agreement wasn't merely a professional policy. It was an emotional contract, one that blurred the lines between character and self. "Sometimes," Caitriona admitted, her voice thick with feeling, "I couldn't tell where Claire ended and where I began, and I think Sam couldn't either." That single sentence reverberated across fan communities like an echo of forbidden love. For years, Outlander devotees had speculated that their on-screen chemistry, that slow-burning, soul-deep intimacy, couldn't be just acting. It was too real, too raw, too alive. Every touch, every shared look seemed to hold something sacred, something personal. And now, for the first time, Caitriona had almost confirmed what many had believed all along. An unnamed insider from the season 4 production later told the Scottish Herald that they were closer than anyone realized. The insider recalled seeing them arrive together before dawn and leave long after the cameras stopped rolling, often slipping away quietly while others went for dinner. They had a rhythm, like they existed in their own world, the source said. No one dared ask. We all knew something was there, but it was like an open secret, something sacred and untouchable. The same source revealed that on one particular day during filming in Glasgow, both actors disappeared for 3 hours, delaying production. When they returned, their eyes were red, yet they filmed one of the most emotionally charged scenes of the series as if nothing had happened. It was the scene where Claire says goodbye before Jamie goes to war, the insider added. And it felt real, almost unbearably real. Rumors of a secret 2018 trip to Spain soon resurfaced. At the time, Both actors were spotted by a fan at Barcelona airport but declined photographs. Neither posted any travel photos, check-ins, or mentions on social media. Fans now speculated that it was during that trip that they made a pact to protect each other from media intrusion, a pact that had shaped their silence for years. When a journalist later asked Sam about it in a 2019 interview, he smiled lightly and said, "Some memories are best kept private." But to fans now revisiting that quote, it sounded like confirmation in disguise. After the viral interview, Caitriona broke her social media quietness with a short Instagram story, a white background with faint black text that read, "Sometimes silence protects love, but sometimes it buries it alive." That single sentence shattered the internet. Within minutes, hashtags like #SamandCaitrionaTruth and #OutlanderRevelation trended globally. Celebrities, co-stars, and even journalists began commenting on the emotional complexity of her words. Was it a confession, a farewell, a rebuke to the industry that demanded silence from her, or all three? Psychologists were quick to weigh in, noting how the long-term embodiment of deeply emotional characters can blur personal boundaries. Dr. Elise Mullen, a media psychologist, explained in The Guardian that method-style emotional immersion, especially in roles like Jamie and Claire, creates an unconscious merging of identities. The actors live those emotions not as fiction but as lived experience. She added, for Caitriona and Sam, years of on-screen passion, trust, and mutual vulnerability could easily evolve into a real emotional entanglement. The problem arises when external contracts forbid authenticity off-screen. The human psyche struggles with that duality. Fans recalled interviews where Sam called Caitriona my constant, my partner in everything, and the anchor of my world. At the time, these phrases were dismissed as friendly admiration. But through the lens of her new revelation, they took on new meaning. One longtime Outlander crew member confessed anonymously, "We saw things. The way they looked at each other wasn't scripted. It was lived. It was love, but love in lockdown." The media frenzy only intensified when an archived behind-the-scenes video from Season 3 resurfaced. In it, Caitriona can be seen comforting Sam after a particularly intense scene. He seems shaken. She takes his hand, whispers something inaudible, and he nods, pressing his forehead against hers for a few seconds. A moment raw, unscripted, and deeply intimate. The clip, once overlooked, was now seen as the missing piece in a puzzle a decade in the making. In a later segment of the RTE1 interview that didn't initially air but was leaked by an internal employee, Caitriona was heard saying quietly off camera, "I think we loved each other in a way that didn't fit anywhere. Not in real life, not on set, not in the rules we were given." The remark, though brief, became the emotional center of the unfolding narrative. It revealed a painful paradox. Two people bound by love yet imprisoned by fame, art, and public expectation. By early October, Sam Heughan finally broke his silence. In a brief post on X, formerly Twitter, he wrote, "There's always more to a story than what people see. Caitriona and I share something timeless. Let's not destroy it with noise." His statement, though restrained, was enough to reignite debates. Was he confirming her story? Was this his way of protecting her? Fans dissected every comma, every pause, turning language into. Industry insiders later revealed that both actors had faced intense pressure from network executives to maintain a certain public image, one that kept fans invested in the fantasy of Jamie and Claire. "They were told repeatedly that revealing anything would break the spell," said one producer. The studio didn't want reality to interfere with profitability. What began as a marketing tactic eventually became a form of emotional control, leaving both actors performing not just for the cameras but for the world. In an essay for Variety, a close friend of Caitriona's wrote, "She never resented Sam, but she carried guilt. Guilt for loving someone she wasn't allowed to love publicly." The friend added, "She used to say, 'We made something real, and then had to pretend it was fake.' That kind of inversion does something to your soul." In truth, what Caitriona revealed wasn't merely about romance. It was about identity, about how actors lose themselves in the roles they inhabit and the rules they must obey. It was about the emotional labor of living under perpetual scrutiny, of having to hide joy, pain, and affection behind professional facades. Her confession became a mirror for every artist who has ever been told to suppress their humanity in service of performance. As the days passed, the world began to look at Outlander differently. Rewatching scenes, fans found themselves overwhelmed by the authenticity that now seemed painfully real. Every kiss, every whisper, every tear now held the weight of hidden truth. The illusion of fiction had turned inside out, revealing two souls who had lived a decade-long secret in plain sight. And perhaps that is why, when asked in a later podcast interview what she felt after finally speaking out, Caitriona simply said, "Relieved, because silence is heavy. It doesn't just protect you, it suffocates you." In that moment, the facade cracked for good. What was once myth became memory.
The Lost Daughter by Elena Ferrante, and it's about essentially a woman who becomes sort of obsessed with a young mother and her daughter.
There was love. It was real, but it wasn't allowed. Those words, simple yet piercing, now echo across every platform where fans of Outlander gather, carrying the bittersweet essence of what has finally come to light. After Caitriona Balfe's emotional revelation on RTE1, the entire digital world seemed to stop breathing. And in the heavy silence that followed, one figure remained completely absent: Sam Heughan. No posts, no stories, no statements. Just silence. A silence that grew louder with each passing hour, fueling speculation, curiosity, and heartbreak. Social media caught fire, reviving a movement that had lain dormant for years. The hashtag Sam and Caitis reel, once popular between 2015 and 2017, when rumors first circulated that there was something more between the two leads than scripted chemistry, returned to dominate every trending list. Fans, veterans of a decade of speculation, declared with vindicated passion that the truth had finally surfaced. We always knew. One viral post read, "You can't fake that kind of love." Another comment, shared thousands of times, said, 10 years of hiding emotions for the sake of fiction. It's cruel. Hollywood owes them an apology. Suddenly, what had long existed as whispers among fan circles transformed into an emotional public reckoning, forcing people to revisit not just interviews and behind-the-scenes footage, but their entire perception of love, fame, and the boundaries between performance and reality. For years, both Sam and Caitriona had danced around the rumors, sometimes dismissing them with humor, sometimes deflecting them with professional charm. Sam, with his characteristic Scottish wit, would say things like, "Caitriona and I have great chemistry, but we're just very good friends," while Caitriona would laugh and tease, "If I had a pound for every time someone asked that, I'd have retired by now." But even those denials seemed laced with a certain softness, an almost aching restraint, as though both were saying what they had to, not what they wanted to. Fans, particularly those who had followed Outlander since its early days, remembered interviews where a fleeting glance between them spoke more than their words ever could. And after her confession on September 27th, those old videos became evidence. Tiny fragments of truth hidden in plain sight, rediscovered like pieces of a long-buried love letter. The online frenzy was relentless. Thousands of users shared slow-motion edits of Sam and Caitriona's on-screen moments, pairing them with melancholic soundtracks and quotes from the series that now felt heartbreakingly prophetic. "You have my body and soul, and I yours," Claire once said to Jamie. Now, those lines felt eerily autobiographical. Yet, amidst the feverish nostalgia, a darker conversation began. Fans asked, how could such a love be denied? Why did two adults, capable of making their own choices, have to live behind a veil woven by contracts and producers? The phrase "forbidden by Hollywood" began circulating, echoing across headlines and podcasts. More serious publications began framing the situation not as a scandal but as a commentary on how entertainment industries commodify intimacy, turning genuine human connection into a marketable illusion and punishing it when it becomes too real. Caitriona's marriage, too, came under scrutiny. Since her wedding in 2019, she had kept her private life fiercely guarded, sharing little about her husband or domestic world. But now, the timing, the years, the overlaps raised painful questions. Was the marriage a shelter or an escape? Was it built from love or from the exhaustion of suppressing another? Commentators reminded the public to tread carefully, yet the collective curiosity had already crossed boundaries. Fans speculated that Sam's long-maintained secrecy about his own relationships, his avoidance of public partners, his vagueness in interviews, might have been less about privacy and more about loyalty. It wasn't proof, but it was enough for many to believe that what Caitriona revealed was more than nostalgia. It was unfinished business, sealed by years of silence and industry control. Then came the resurfaced footage that reignited the emotional firestorm. The BAFTA Awards 2020 clip. In it, Sam leans in, whispers something into Caitriona's ear, and she bursts out laughing. Not her usual composed laughter, but something deeper, a laugh that trembles into tears. At the time, it seemed like a charming, candid moment between close colleagues. But in the aftermath of her confession, it was reinterpreted as something else entirely. Perhaps a fleeting, unguarded moment when their real connection slipped through the facade. Commentators described it as the only public glimpse of what they truly were. Frame by frame, fans dissected the clip, claiming they could see love, longing, and a trace of sorrow in her eyes. The media machinery, of course, wasted no time. Within a day, tabloids screamed sensational headlines: Sam and Caitriona, a love unnamed, Outlander's secret affair exposed, a forbidden contract, Hollywood's hidden truth. Some papers spun it as a scandal, others as tragedy. Yet, among the noise, certain reputable journalists sought to shift the tone. They framed the story not as gossip, but as a case study in emotional repression. A modern tragedy of two people caught between art and authenticity. One piece in The Guardian called it a love story sacrificed at the altar of public fantasy, comparing it to the silent heartbreaks of old Hollywood, those between co-stars who were forced by studios to deny their feelings for fear of damaging a brand. Behind the frenzy, Caitriona's final words from the interview haunted everyone. With tears barely held back, she had said, "If I could go back, I wish I had chose. I wish I had dared to walk towards Sam without fear of being judged." It was not a declaration of guilt or betrayal. It was a lament, a reflection from someone who had lived too long in the shadow of what could have been. The vulnerability of that moment touched something universal, a sense of regret for paths not taken, for love silenced by fear and expectation. The clip of that closing line was replayed millions of times, stitched into fan montages, paired with haunting instrumental tracks, and shared under the caption, "She finally said it." Meanwhile, the world waited for Sam. His silence stretched across hours, then days. The absence of response became its own story, dissected by fans and journalists alike. Some argued he was protecting her. Others thought he was consulting legal advisors. A few believed he was simply heartbroken. But when his response finally came, 48 hours after Caitriona's interview, it was not through an interview or an official statement, but a single Instagram post that felt almost poetic in its restraint. A black and white photograph, dimly lit, showing a handwritten letter on an old desk. The caption read, "Not all stories have an ending, but some stories never end." There were no hashtags, no tags, no explanations, just silence surrounding the words, as if he wanted the world to listen not to the noise but to the stillness between the lines. And the fans did. They knew. They didn't need names or confirmations anymore. The message spoke of something timeless, unresolved, and deeply human. Analysts were quick to draw parallels with other historical on-screen partnerships, from Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton to Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall, where professional chemistry had spilled into real affection, complicated by fame and expectation. Yet what made the Sam Caitriona narrative distinct was the modern context. A world of social media, of performative transparency, where every word, every glance, every silence became an endangered species. And perhaps, in that sense, their love was not only forbidden by industry contracts but also endangered by the times. A love that could only survive if it stayed hidden. The aftermath extended far beyond fandom. Think pieces emerged about emotional labor in acting, how portraying intimacy for years can leave scars, how the boundaries between performance and personal life erode when two actors must repeatedly simulate love that feels real. Psychologists pointed out the concept of emotional residue, the lingering feelings actors carry from long-term roles. For Sam and Caitriona, portraying a marriage across multiple seasons meant sharing trust, vulnerability, and physical closeness that most real-life couples experience over decades. The emotional residue, one therapist wrote, can feel indistinguishable from real love because, in truth, it is real, even if it exists in a different dimension. Fans began to revisit the Outlander episodes, seeing them not merely as period drama, but as fragments of an unspeakable love story. Each look, each pause, now carried retrospective meaning. The line between fiction and reality had blurred so completely that viewers could no longer tell which moments belonged to Jamie and Claire, and which belonged to Sam and Caitriona. And maybe that was the point. Maybe the greatest love stories are the ones that defy categorization, living somewhere between truth and myth, just beyond reach. A week after the interview, Caitriona was photographed leaving her London home quietly, without makeup, dressed in black. When asked by paparazzi if she regretted her words, she said softly, "No, I regret the silence that came before them." That single line became the epilogue of the entire saga. A sentence that transformed what could have been dismissed as celebrity gossip into something far more profound. It was about liberation, about reclaiming one's voice after years of self-censorship. In the end, there were no winners or losers, only two people bound by memory, affection, and the irreversible consequences of having lived their love in fragments. Sam's cryptic post, Caitriona's trembling confession, and the shared silence that followed became the new mythology of Outlander. Not the fantasy of time travel, but the tragedy of a love suspended between worlds. And perhaps that is why, years from now, people will still talk about them. Not just as Jamie and Claire, but as Sam and Caitriona, two souls who found something extraordinary